All right, welcome everybody. So I think today we're going to take a look at the differences between these two Ochsenkopf aluminum wedges. So this one right here was the original one that I've had for probably well over 2 years, and they have since discontinued this model. So the first thing I'll mention is you'll notice I got a crack here in this one, and I believe that is more because I did not maintain this the way I probably should have. So what I found out is as you hit this, you'll get these, basically a mushroom, it'll mushroom out here on the edges. And I've since hit this with a belt sander, so that's why you see a lot of shiny surfaces on here. But what you're supposed to do is hit that, file those edges off. So if you do actually hit the side here, it doesn't create a fracture, which is probably what happened here. Now it doesn't go that far in, so I don't think it's really that big of an issue. But there was another one on here where I had the same issue right here. You can see there's a tiny fracture right there. So that's one thing you just have to remember using these aluminum wedges. After a couple of months of use, you'll definitely develop these mushrooming edges on here. And then, yeah, these marks right here are from one time I got it stuck and I hit a rotten spot and I had to knock the wedge out sideways. So that's not typical to see those. So here's the current model that they sell. So the one difference is that looks like they moved production of these wedges to Hungary. If I remember, this was made in Germany or was made in Austria. I can't remember exactly. It's one of those two countries. So that might have been the main reason why they discontinued it. First question is, why do you want to use an aluminum wedge? And really the main advantage is that just the reduction of weight. A wedge of this size in steel would probably be anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds, whereas this one's probably only a couple of pounds will weigh in a little bit. Just the act of picking it up, and placing it a couple hundred times, the amount of energy that you save with a aluminum wedge is really the main advantage. So if you only use a wedge every once in a while, the aluminum wedges probably aren't going to give you that much of a benefit over the steel wedges. But if you're using them for hours a day, then really it just saves you. It's like doing a curl with a 5-pound weight about 1,000 times. So that's really the big advantage. I guess there's other advantages in that it doesn't corrode, it doesn't rust, it's easier to sharpen if you ever need to sharpen the edge here. But those are really just smaller advantages I see to the main advantage of being a weight reduction. So the weight of this old one has probably been reduced a little bit. We can see it's about 858 grams or 1 pound 14 ounces. So the weight of the brand new one I just got, so that's 2 pounds 3 ounces and pretty much 1,006 grams. So I'm going to refer to this one as the square one, and this is the oval wedge. The oval wedge is about, it looks like maybe 20 millimeters longer, which is about just over 3/4 of an inch than the square one. And the profile is much different there. So it's a much greater striking area here on the square one, and this kind of matches more of the maul or sledgehammer that you would use, as they typically have a square, more of a square pattern. And so this one has, it's an oval pattern. So we'll have to see if this is more susceptible to mishits or not. It may actually be less because it doesn't have any kind of sharp edges like this one does. So in terms of the twist that you see here, the square one, it looks like it twists about 45 degrees from the end to the striking surface. What I've noticed about this, you don't really start seeing a lot of splitting action until it gets past kind of these grooves right here. So a lot of times I've gotten these wedges almost up to the top before it actually split the piece. This one doesn't look like it twists nearly as much. So I'm guessing this one's only twisting about 30 degrees. But just eyeing that up, it looks to be about a 30-degree twist there. But it has a couple of features that this one doesn't have. One thing I noticed about the square one, this particular pattern here, I don't really think this was actually doing anything. I think the intention of these was that to prevent it from backing out, but I don't know how much resistance I was actually offering. I guess it depends on how green or seasoned the particular wood was. Most of the wood I've seen, these did not get filled up with material, which makes me think that it wasn't really doing much. And that was really the only feature on this particular wedge, besides the twist on the square one. Now, if we look at the oval one, it does still have this pattern that you see on the square one, but it's a lot different. The grooves right here are much, much deeper, and they extend all the way to the edges of the wedge here. And the other thing you'll see on both the front and the back of this wedge, we have these raised arrows, which is what I think these are really going to provide more anti-backing up capability, because as the edge gets over top of here, it's going to be really hard to back it out back this way. And then on the opposite side of this pattern right here, we have some really deep ridges, which are separated by a channel right there. So these are all features that the square one, the old one, did not have. And that may have been the primary reason for discontinuing this. So the one final note is that these grooves right here that you see are much less pronounced and less deep on the oval one. Okay, well, that's a quick overview of the differences here. I got some silver maple that a neighbor gave to me that has been a real pain to split because it's so green. Where I live, you actually have to pay the tree service to take the wood away. Some places that's the opposite because I think they make money selling the wood. So I basically tell any of the neighbors if they're getting a tree taken down, ask them for a quote of leaving the wood on the ground, and I'll come and take it away. So the guy said he saved $400 on the price of taking down this large tree just by getting him to leave the wood behind. So there were a couple of pieces that were probably about maybe 3 feet in diameter that I couldn't lift. I had to go out there with a wedge and split those in half. A couple of those pieces, it took this full wedge and then half of another wedge just to get it split. And I'm pretty sure that's just because it's a very green wood. We had a very wet summer. So it's absorbing a lot of the wedge effects with water because the wood is so wet. All right, so let's go ahead and head outside and try splitting a couple pieces with these two wedges and see how they perform. So like I said before, this is a silver maple that is extremely hard to split when it's this green. So you could let it dry out and it'd be easier, but we can get it split with these wedges. So I think I'm going to use my grandfather's old sledgehammer on this guy. It's a little bit easier to control because it's shorter and it has a little bit lighter head on it. But I need to get a new handle for it. That's why I don't use it as much. You can see there how many nails have been put in the end of that. Handle's probably as old as the head. So maybe I'll see if I can get a Ghidorah handle for this. Alright, so let's go ahead and I got two pieces here. We'll do one with the old one and one with the new one. Alright, so let's try the new guy. So that was actually a lot easier than I remember. I had to split a couple of these pieces before. So this right here is actually the base of the tree, and this is only half. This is basically like a quarter of it. So I had to split it in half and then split it again. And this is one of the ones I had a lot of trouble with. So let's try splitting this guy with the new wedge. Yeah, was that easier? Hard to say, so we'll try it with the old style too on this piece. So honestly, I'm not noticing any difference really in the performance of either of those. So let's see if I can find a really large piece that we can try and see if we can get that wedge stuck in there. Alright, so here's one I know is going to be some trouble because it has a branch coming out of it. I always forget if you're supposed to split in the direction the branch is going or opposite, but we'll just do it this way because it's about as level this way as any. We'll go ahead and try it with the new one. So we'll try the old wedge on this half, see if there's any difference. I'll split some more wood for a while, and then we'll come back inside and wrap it up and give you my conclusions on these. Alright, so we're back inside after splitting wood for a while. And I went back and I looked at some pictures I took of this wedge before I really started using it. And there definitely wasn't this big mushrooming out up here. It actually was kind of on a little bit of a chamfer. So that's really all of a result of actually just hammering it and just kind of flattening it out. So you really can't see this one flattening out yet, but I'm sure it will eventually, just like the other one. But it takes a massive amount of hits to really do this. We're talking probably in the thousands of hits to get it to mushroom out like that. So in terms of performance, I saw really no difference in the performance of these. I know it would probably make a more interesting video if there was a huge difference or some kind of epiphany when using this, but the only real note I have about the new one is it seemed like the new one was going in a lot straighter than the old one. I think that's because the center of gravity is further down towards the end here. But really, even though this one's wider than this one is actually heavier and longer, has more material on it, so it probably is why they cancel out and they perform about the same. But yeah, it's a nice product, and I quite like using these aluminum wedges, and it does make me feel a little bit better about using that old steel hammer on these wedges other than a steel wedge. So I don't know if it showed up in the video, but if you saw the edges of this hammer, this thing has been used and abused quite a bit. So these chips right here really can be quite dangerous. This is from hitting hardened steel. And when these come off, they can come off at extreme speeds. Alright, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'll catch you guys next time.